All right, my friend, we are starting something new today, a brand new series all about conversations with your dogs. Because I think a lot of us, for me in particular, but I'm sure a lot of us, we have been taught something very, very different. We've been taught to command our dogs, to teach them obedience, which essentially means when I say this thing, I need you to do this thing. We tell them what to do, we expect them to do it. And if they don't, we repeat it, we get louder, firmer. Maybe we use more tools, more effort, more pressure. Perhaps we get better treats out. And somewhere along the way, we started to believe that this is leadership and this is training. It's the because I said so mentality. But what if what's actually keeping you stuck isn't because your dog is struggling with obedience, but they're struggling with being heard? So in this series, we're going to shift perspective from commands to conversations, from telling to actually communicating in a way that makes sense to your dog. And in this very first episode, I wanted to talk about a concept that completely changed everything for me. And that concept was ask, but ask until you get the right answer. And I'm going to tell you the story about where that came from, what I thought it first meant, and one very humbling experience with that oh so famous husky named Jayce, and how he completely changed how I live with dogs. Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hey there, friend. Spring is in the air. Spring is in the air. And if you are like me, you've probably already had that moment where you let your dog out and they're sniffing, and then you see them like catch that scent. That moment, and you think to yourself, uh-oh. Have you had that moment yet? I know I have. I've had that moment where I swear the dog was like, can't talk now, gotta go. So much to smell, so much to do, gotta go. And if that is you, I want to invite you to join me inside the Fearless Framework, because inside this program, we are talking about all the things that make you irresistible to your dog, understanding your dog at a different level, building a bond that creates this connection of, I want to hang out with you because you are so awesome. Now listen, will you be able to trump the smells of spring? No, probably not. We might have to bring out some tools. We might have to have some assistance. I am not going to sugarcoat this for you. Spring is the thing for dogs, my friend. But if you want to get closer, you want to make it easier, come on over to the Fearless Framework. Join us today for our 12-month online program where you can connect with me and other dog lovers. Let's do this thing together. Go to beyondobedience.ca/fearless, and I'll see you there. Well, hello, my dog-loving friend. It is Tracy. Welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. Super duper welcome. If you're brand new, isn't it nice to get a little bit of applause? Like, just a little bit. Don't you wish you had that if you went into work and people are like, you're here, and then they just like slow clap your brilliance? Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love that. Maybe that's why I like hanging out with dogs. Because you come home and they're like, you're the best thing ever. Like, feeds our fragile little egos. All right. Listen, friend, if you are brand new, though, welcome to Beyond Obedience. This is the podcast where we talk about all things beyond obedience, where we look at the dog as a whole. We look at ways that we can, as the human being in our dog's life, be the person worth following. And if that's something that interests you, you're in the right place, friend. You are in the right place. So we're starting a brand new series. And I'm really kind of excited about it because, many times I find myself kind of reflecting on how can I share, like, what are the tactical things that I do with my dog? It doesn't, if I'm being honest, oh my gosh, I got off on a tangent. I'm not, but let me just kind of bring you into my mind for a second, because sometimes I think, people want to know, like, what's the answer? How do I do? What do you do? What is it that you do? And sometimes for me, honestly, it doesn't appear that tactical. Like, it's not like obedience. Like, it's not like where I get up and I'd be like, okay, well, first thing that I do is we practice place command for a little while I'm doing the dishes, or, I make sure that I've done my training session, and then I make sure that my dog has had its fulfillment. And like, I don't live my life that way. I don't live my life in this way of like constantly thinking about the structure of like how to do all the things I talk about. I just kind of live with dogs. But I was like, there's got to be something. And it dawned on me, I was working in the barn this morning and I was like thinking about it, and I'm like, it's conversations. It's the conversations that I have with my dogs every single day. And probably the conversations that if you were just kind of observing me with the dogs, you probably wouldn't know that I was having a conversation. It's not the big bold things that I'm doing where I ask them to get out of my space or to go sit over there, and it's the quiet, tiny little conversations. It's the eye contact, it's the smile, it's the light touch on the shoulder. It's the quiet conversations that I think make the biggest impact. And when that hit me today while I was shoveling horse poop in the barn, I'll be honest with you, I think I get most of my good ideas when I'm shoveling horse poop in the barn. I don't know what it is. Some people are like, I get the best ideas when I'm in the shower. For me, it's when I'm doing like barn work, when I'm in it. Like, there's something so like being in nature, working with the horses, being around, letting the ducks out, watching the animals, feeding the goats. I'd already fed the dogs at this point in time, so I'd already done that. Something about it that just kind of is like, this is it. Like, these things come to me. Now, I also have menopause, so I have to come up and record it right away. Otherwise I will forget. And then it'll hit me 3 days and I'll be like, that's a brilliant idea. I should talk about that. That's the cycle. So here I am. I ran up from the barn and I'm like, I got to sit down and I got to put some things together and talk about this. So where did it all begin? Let's talk about where this all began, because I believe that this sort of started for me back in 2015. So let's go back like 11 years. And it was kind of where I started to, it's where I first met my mentor, Nelson. And I went to the very first seminar of his that I attended to was his 3-day RBBM seminar. And I remember it was the first time I had sat in that seminar, and I was just taking so many notes, and I was like, this stuff is gold. And I felt seen, and I was like, this is what I'm talking about. I'd sat through so many training seminars in my days, and how to fix aggression and how to use this tool and all the training seminars. And this was the first time that it was like, oh my gosh, this is what I like. This is what I love. This is what I get to do. I loved it. So I'm writing all these notes. And I remember leaving that very first seminar, like just coming home and be like, have all these ideas. And then like everything else, there's the art, or not the art, it's the diminishing effect of that excitement happens, like you start off and everything's really exciting. You're like, this is what I'm going to do. And then life happens. And before you know it, months go by and you're kind of back into your same old. And I happened to come across my notes from that seminar about a couple months later. And I saw written in the margin of the notes, this phrase that said, it said, don't tell a dog what to do. Ask, but ask until you get the right answer. And I remember looking at that note and being like, I remember him saying that and thinking about like, what does that mean? And I thought at that time, it meant like like, for example, like leash tension, right? If you're like walking a dog on a leash and they're pulling and you want them to stop pulling, that you apply a little bit of tension, and if they resist, then you hold that tension. Don't add any more. Don't add any more, because if you add more, then now you're telling the dog what to do. But just hold it and then wait for them to get the right answer. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, got it. Like, you know, like had it in my head, like checked off. Like, I understand now. And then the next year, the next summer, I actually went back and I did that same seminar again. Like, I found out he was coming back to the same place, and I'm like, I'm going to do that again. Because isn't it funny how sometimes like you can hear things like 2, 3, 4 times, and every time you hear it, it kind of hits a little bit different. And it hits different because you're in a different phase of your life. Maybe you've tried. I'm hoping that happens for you, honestly. I'm sure you, by now, if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you hear the same themes coming up over and over and over again. Like, they're not changing. It's the same thing. But maybe now, because you've been working a little bit differently with your dog, or you've been trying a few things, maybe now what I'm saying hits a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I go back to the same course, and I'm taking just as many notes. Like, I'm like just as many notes, just taking it. And I heard him say that thing again, where he was like, don't tell the dog, ask, but ask until you get the right answer. And I was like, yeah, I already got that one. Like, I checked that off of my list. Like, I've already internalized that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And then fast forward to 2018, I take his 9-day course down in Texas. If you're new and you haven't heard this story, this is a 9-day intensive seminar where we were given a husky from the Husky Rescue. And the challenge was we were to live with this dog, completely new to us. Obviously, we don't get a chance to really meet. Well, we met the dog, but it was like we had, I don't know, a half a day to pick our dog, and then we took it back with us. But the challenge was that you had no tools, no training collars, no training leashes, no treats, no crates. And said with a curled lip. That meant, like, understand what that means. Like, this is a dog I've never met before, and I've taken it into a hotel. And that meant that I had to take this dog with me, like, everywhere. That meant showering with, I took the dog in the shower with me, like, because I'm like, I can't leave this dog for a second. He was a menace, right? He was a menace. But it was in that seminar, that 9-day seminar, that the phrase, don't tell a dog what to do, but ask until you get the right answer, had a whole new meaning for me. Because without the aid of my go-to training tools, I was learning to communicate with this dog by asking, and that became a major source of frustration, to say the least. Without the aid of the training tools, asking him became me basically saying, what the hell do I do right now? Like, I don't know how to do this. And the right answer, I tell you, my friend, that did not come to me the first day. That first day where that dog was biting me, he was grabbing my arm and biting me so hard that I actually cried, right? And now I'll point out, not in an aggressive way. He wasn't aggressive. He was just like over the top, bitey, like, I don't know if it was frustration. I don't know what it was, but it was insanity. And so that first night, oh my gosh, I know I've told this before, but I still laugh because I remember my husband calling me being like, is it everything? Because I was so excited to go to this seminar. Like, I'm like, it's going to be 9 days. It's going to be awesome. And I remember my husband being like, how's it going? And I was like, I didn't want to tell him though, because we had spent a lot of money. I didn't want to be like, this is the worst money I've ever spent. Why did I do this? Anyway, the answer also didn't come the second day. It didn't come the second day when I had to spend the entire day with this dog, and he pulled me around so much that I was popping Tylenol. My bones hurt. He pulled me off my feet. It didn't even come the third day. The third day, I will tell you in this story of my journey with Jayce, the third day, I actually had to take this dog to the vet because I contacted Nelson to say he wasn't eating. Like, he was not interested at all in eating food. And Nelson was concerned that maybe he had an obstruction or something, like, before we even got him. So he wanted me to take him to the vet. So I dropped this dog off at the vet, glorious day because I'm like, you take him. And then I got to like hang out with everybody, but I didn't have like this, horrible beast of burden that I had with me. It was lovely. And I also remember thinking, maybe that's why he's such a jerk, right? Maybe he's not feeling well and that's why he's a jerk. I go to the vets at the end of the day to go pick him up, and it turns out, nope, that wasn't it. He was perfectly fine. He was just a jerk. So much so that the vet clinic staff were like, please just take him. Like they did not have a fun day with him either. And I was like, great, great. But the answer for me came probably about, I would say, day 4, day 5. And by day 4, day 5, I was getting kind of frustrated. And I was like, not really getting the point of this, like this whole ask until you get the right answer kind of a thing. But I remember we were doing like environmental agility, and we were at this little playground, and I was just going through the motions. I would ask him to do stuff. He would sometimes do it, but then most times he would just do whatever he wanted and just drag me along. And if I'm being honest, part of me had just kind of given up. Like I was like, ugh, this is awful. And so sounds terrible. But I remember just kind of walking past the slide, and I looked at him like, hey, because I think Nelson was watching. So I'm like, hey, you want to get up on the slide? Kind of a thing, and did my arm gesture. And he did. He jumped up on the slide, and I was like, oh, look at you, right? And I was like, that's a pretty good jump, dude. And then I'm like, maybe it's a fluke. So I asked him to get down, and then I go to the bigger slide. It was one of those like hump slides, like those 2-level slides. And I was like, can you get up there? And did this dog not was like challenge accepted? And he like launched himself, and he hit the hump, and then he launched onto the platform. And I was like, holy moly, like what just happened? And then he was like so excited because I was like, that's amazing. That I brought him down. And next thing you know, I'm like, what else can you jump on? And because I was getting him, like, if I'm being honest, before then I was like, can you get up on this culvert? Like, not a culvert. What are those things called in the parking lot? Those cement things. I was like, can you get on this and walk along this? And he was like, why would I want to do that? That's lame. Like, that's what I learned about him in that moment. Like, this dog was like, I can scale a wall. Like, and so I kind of did take him over to a wall. And Nelson was getting a little worried because I was like, can you get up there? And that dog would try. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. All of a sudden, I was getting this dog to do everything. And I was like, amazing. I'm now energized. Like, I'm running around. I'm doing all this stuff with him. I'm getting him to do like crazy things. And he was doing it. And he was like all in it. And all of a sudden, it hit me. Oh, that was the right question, right? Like, I was asking and then just waiting for him to do exactly what I said. I never asked him or thought to ask him if I wasn't even asking the right question. Like that, and it hit me. Like, I was like, wow. All of a sudden, after that, this dog and I were like unstoppable. Like, we were just doing all of this amazing things. And what changed was literally just, I mean, obviously our relationship changed, but I truly believe if it wasn't for the lack of tools and the lack of treats and all the other, my go-to things that I used to, I don't want to say enforce. It's not like I was ever really tough with dogs. It's not like I was like, just do it. I was never like that. I really did have a thing like, I'll hold and wait here and I'll try a different way to like ask you. But I realized without the tools and without the treats, I had to learn to ask him the right questions and then get those answers. And when I found those questions, all of a sudden, like a whole world opened up to the two of us. Like, it was a whole new world. I remember like going home in the evenings, like I had this same, the same path around the hotel that I always walked. And it was like, basically he pulled me, I walked him, I waited for him to go to the bathroom, picked up after him, and I went home, or went back to the hotel. But now all of a sudden I was like, we got to find some cooler stuff than this. Like, we have to find some cooler stuff, right? Like, now all of a sudden, like, I'm engaged. I was seeking for fun things. Like, I'm like, where else can I find cool things? I went down roads I didn't find. I found rocks. I was like, can you climb up this rock? Like, And he always did. He always did. He amazed me. Anyway, my point was I asked, but I asked until I got the right answer. And it didn't happen in that moment, right? And it may not happen right away, but ask until you get the right answer is more about learning a language of another species through the study and practice of that species, and in particular, that particular dog. It is the realization that it wasn't about pressure or tension, and it wasn't about the tools. It wasn't even about obedience. It was about a conversation that finally made sense to him, right? Because ask until you get the right answer doesn't mean repeat it louder, add more pressure, or even stay at the current pressure you're in. It certainly doesn't mean force the outcome. It means stay in the conversation until there is an understanding. And that experience changed everything for me, because for the first time, I had built something with a dog, an understanding without tools, without treats, without forcing. And it was just communication. And here's the part that matters for you, my dog loving friend, is that when it comes to dealing with behaviors that you're frustrated with, or reactivity, or whatever it may be, if the only time you try to ask your dog something is when they're reacting, it's already too late. Like you've already missed the boat. Okay? So asking means to stay until there's an understanding, which also means you have to stop talking long enough to hear your dog's answer. Right? I never stopped to actually ask this dog what else he could do. Like I just was like, here, can you do this? Can you do this? Like, I'll wait here. Oh, you're not paying attention. I'll just wait. Like, I never got the right answer until he showed me. So for me, learning how to have a conversation instead of just giving commands didn't just change how I train dogs. It literally changed how I live with them. So, my friend, we're going to carry on this conversation a little bit more in the next episode, because as I mentioned, I've been thinking a lot about it. What are the things that I do? What are the tactical things that I do? And it is, in fact, these tiny little conversations now that I have with my dogs all the time, these unseen, unheard conversations. I'm sure if you asked my family, they probably wouldn't pick up on even a fraction of the conversations that I have with the dogs. These little tiny moments. And again, they're tiny little conversations, tiny, quiet little conversations happening all the time. And that's what I want for you. So we're going to continue this. In the next episode. I want to talk about this idea of agreement and disagreement and what that looks like for dogs. But this is getting a little long in the tooth, so I'm going to wrap it up. What you can do today is play around with that idea. Asking until you get the right answer, meaning sometimes that means asking the right question. So there you go. All right. I hope that helps you again today, my friend. As always, if this is something you like, could you please do me a favor and head on over to Apple, leave a 5-star written review. It does help to push this podcast out to more and more people, and that is the goal. And share this with a friend. Share this with a dog-loving friend that you think might also enjoy this kind of stuff. And as always, get out there today, my dog-loving friend, and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you're amazing, and so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. And one more thing, this podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and it's not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you are really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.